We have had a number of requests in the last number of weeks to play bunker shots. Today we're joined by Ian Stafford. Ian, what are your best tips for us?
I think, Shane, understanding of what actually happens in a bunker shot is key. When we hit a bunker shot, like, we're not actually making that much contact with the ball. There's a lot of sand will get between the club face and the ball. So actually understanding that is one of the big things. And I suppose one of the biggest mistakes that I would see people making is, like, they have a big long backswing. They tend to dump the club into the sand and not follow through. And when people do that, what you'll see is that if you look where the sand finishes in the face of the bunker. And really, if the sand you hit isn't getting out, then the ball isn't going to get out either. So, like, as the first step for bunker shots, if you're having difficulty with them, my best tip for you would be to make sure that the sand you hit gets out. If the sand that you hit gets out, so will the ball. If that's the main objective you have, getting the ball out, then go with the sand. Okay, get that. So I'm going to hit a shot here, and primary objective for me here is to make sure that the sand gets out of the bunker. So I'm going to aim to hit maybe an inch behind the ball here. I'm going to hit the shot and we'll see where the sand finishes up. Okay, so you can see the ball has got out, or the ball has got out, the sand has got out with it. But one of the biggest things is my follow through position here. My weight is finishing on my left foot, chest belt buckle is at the target then as well.
In comparing bunker play to a regular chip shot, what differences would you say players need to implement?
Like our setup for a basic chip shot, we're playing with a pretty square club face, not too open or anything like that. And what will tend to happen if we do that with a bunker shot is the leading edge will tend to hit into the sand and dig a little bit too much. So we're going to get too much sand and not being able to actually hit the sand out of the bunker or get the ball out either. So when we set up with a bunker shot, we're always opening up the face a little bit, adding a little bit more loft. And what you're going to find then is that the sole of the club here, the bounce of the club, is going to be the first thing that will hit the ground. So if I'm hitting a shot and the sole of the club hits the sand, it'll slide through it a lot better. It won't dig in, and we're going to be able to control the depth that the club goes into the sand, which is very, very important. Like we were talking about in our last video, actually controlling the depth of the club and the low point of the club is really important. Using the sole of the club is really important for that. So before I set up to this, I'm just literally opening the club face a little bit there, getting it pointing up at the sky, and then I'm taking my grip. From there, club face is up, and when I hit the sand behind the ball, it's going to slide through it rather than digging in.
If people are having trouble controlling the depth of the shot or the amount of sand they take, how would you best help them out?
Yeah, well, normally what we'll see, Shane, is that you'll either take too much sand, that you're digging in too much and you're not getting enough energy transferred into the ball to get it out of the bunker, or else you get the dreaded one where you don't get enough sand, you're hitting the ball halfway up and you're hitting it 50, 60 yards over the back of the green. So we'll go, two of them are kind of caused by different things, so we'll go through the two causes of that. So if you're having difficulty getting enough sand, a very good drill for you to do is just move to the back of the bunker where you're on a slight downslope. Okay, and what that will force you to do then is actually pick the club up a little bit steeper. So I'm getting it away from the sand here, which promotes me to hit down sharper into the back of the sand, which will make sure that you get contact more underneath the ball. Okay, so hitting the shot here, it comes up steeper and down and through. And I can get practice getting deeper into the sand. So that's for the person who tends not to take enough sand and blades it a little bit over the back of the green. And the opposite of that then is for the person who takes too much sand. We'll go to the front of the bunker onto the upslope. And again, we're practicing going with the slope a little bit more. So we're getting the club coming out of the sand, not digging it into too much. So this will help us not to go too deep. Okay, so we're feeling weights back a little bit here, head's a little bit behind the ball, and we're going with the slope then. So two little simple things, just changing the lie in the bunker will help your entry point and also your exit point out of the bunker to help better control your depth.
The next question we had was trying to generate enough height to get the ball over a bunker and to land softly to a tight pin position.
Okay, so to get height in the shot, like first of all, the lie you have has to allow it. So this can be quite a high risk shot. So playing it off tight lie sometimes isn't always that advisable. But if you have a lie that allow you to do it, you should really give it a go. Similar to the bunker shot that we went through a minute ago, we need to get a little bit more loft on the club. So again, I'm just laying it back a little bit there and just adjusting my setup so that again the club is pointing back up my belt buckle here. So when I'm playing the shot, my one thought is that I'm going to try and keep as much loft on the club face as possible all the way through impact. So as I'm going here, I'm thinking keeping the club pointing up the sky. As I'm going through, I'm allowing the club face to pass my hands and I'm keeping the loft on the club that way. Okay, and again, once we do that, once we get the club head going that way, the bounce of the club is sliding along the ground, so it doesn't allow it to dig in. You don't have to go that hard at these. Like you see some people who are playing flop shots, making big huge swings, and that gives you just a little bit more space to make errors. So we don't have to go that hard at it. Setup is very important that we get that way to move the ball position slightly further forward. As we said, opening up the club face. Then we're just using the wrist, getting the left wrist pointing more up towards the sky. Keep the loft on the club face. Nice smooth swing. Okay, follow through position like anything else, really important. I'm not hanging back too much that I'm going to catch too far behind the ball or hit it on the way up. But really, the biggest thing that I see with these shots is that we're hitting over a bunker here and people tend to get transfixed on the bunker rather than where they want the ball to land. And if you're over a shot like this and you're thinking, oh, don't hit it in the bunker, don't hit it in the bunker, the last words that's gone through your mind is bunker, so your focus switches towards the bunker. But when you're playing this shot, pick your spot on the green where you want the ball to land and just focus on that. Forget about the bunker. I mean, you'll hit this shot all day with no problem if there's no bunker in front of you, but if you allow your focus to switch to the bunker, then you're going to get yourself in trouble. So set up again, pick your spot on the green, focus on the spot and go with it.
Lastly, when playing from the fringe, what is the best club to use to try and keep the ball as close to the ground as possible?
For the low lofted shot off the fringe or the low shot off the fringe, we'd have two options. One, we can either go with the wedge, or two, we can drop back to something which is a little bit less loft. One of these techniques will suit a different person depending on your tendencies in your short game better than the other. We'll go through the both of them anyway. So first one I'm going to play, I'm going to go with the wedge. And biggest mistake I see people making when they're playing this shot is that they get their hands way too far ahead and they use the wrist to try and keep the club down or the ball down. But once they do that, once we get into this position here, there's a lot of things can go wrong. So it's actually quite hard to get the club back on the ball from that position. If I'm playing a low wedge shot like this, just off the fringe, what I'll tend to do is just get hands up a little bit taller, shaft of the club up a little bit more upright, move the ball to the back of the stance. I'm still going to make my swing pretty much straight arms here. I'm not going to let the wrist come into it too much. So basically I've taken all the loft off the wedge in the setup and it's just a matter of swinging through from there. So I have the ball back, I'm not leaning too far forward, I don't need to because I'm well ahead of the ball as it is. Okay, I'm just going to swing back and through. We get a low loft and not too much spin on the ball, it'll run out towards the hole. So just to go through that again, we have our setup position, that the lack of loft is already dialed in here, so we don't have to do anything in this way. Just back and through. We get a nice low flight with plenty of run. So the other option is we actually take the loft off the club. So I think 7-iron in my hand here, and I'm not going to put that back in the stance. So like we don't have loft on the club here, so we don't need to take any more off it here. I still want this to go some bit in the air so it'll carry the fringe grass onto the green. So I'm just going to set up, almost use my put-in stroke here. Ball's in the centre of the stance, just going to rock the shoulders, and the loft in the 7-iron will get the ball up off the ground onto the green and running towards the hole. Okay, so pretty much just mimicking the put-in stroke.